The Korvaxian Coliseum had never seen anything like her dot captain Sarah Chun stood in the preparation chamber, her hands steady as she adjusted the neural interface headset. Around her, alien spectators from a dozen different species pressed against the energy barriers, their multitude of eyes fixed on the small human female who had dared to challenge their greatest warrior. "This is madness," growled Ambassador Threx, his scaled hide rippling with agitation. "Humans have no business in the trials of supremacy. Your species barely registers on our physical enhancement scales." Sarah didn't look up from her equipment check. That's what makes this interesting, isn't it? The Korvaxian Empire had ruled this sector for 3 millennia, their dominance built on the foundation of the trials' ritualized combat that determined not just individual honor, but the pecking order of entire civilizations. For humans, to gain any meaningful standing in galactic politics, they needed to prove themselves here, in the arena where strength was the only currency that mattered. The problem was that humans weren't strong. At least, not in the traditional sense. Compared to the Korvaxians' chitinous exoskeletons and razor-sharp appendages, or the Throx's ability to phase through solid matter, or the Zentari's electromagnetic manipulation, humans seemed laughably outmatched. Sarah Chun was 5'6", weighed 130 pounds, and her only modification was a standard neural interface that most species consider primitive. But Sarah had something else. Something that the galactic community had consistently underestimated. The arena floor materialized around her as the transport beam deposited her in the center of the massive Coliseum. 50,000 alien voices created a deafening roar that would have overwhelmed most beings. Sarah breathed deeply, her heart rate actually decreasing as the sound washed over her. Across the arena, the reigning champion emerged from his preparation chamber. Warlord Krex stood 9 feet tall, his body a perfect fusion of biological evolution and technological enhancement. Crystalline implants jutted from his shoulders, channeling energy that could incinerate steel. His forearms ended in claws that could slice through ship hulls, and his exoskeleton had never been penetrated in 7 years of competition. He had killed 43 challengers. The arena's AI announced the rules in 100 different languages. Simultaneously, single combat. No weapons except biological or integrated technological enhancements. Fight until submission, unconsciousness, or death. Sarah nodded once and settled into a stance that looked deceptively casual. The starting horn sounded. KREX launched himself forward with the speed of a missile, all 4 claws extended, energy building in his crystalline implants. Most challengers would have either tried to dodge or meet his charge head-on. Sarah did neither. She waited. At the last possible second, she dropped to one knee and drove her fist upward, not at Krex's reinforced torso or his protected head, but at the small gap where his left shoulder joint met his chest plate. Her strike landed with surgical precision, just as his momentum carried him forward. The sound of crystalline implants cracking echoed through the suddenly silent arena. Krex roared in pain and confusion, spinning to face her, but Sarah was already moving. She had studied recordings of every one of his fights, analyzed every weakness, cataloged every pattern. While he was physically superior in every measurable way, she had something he didn't: the human capacity for pattern recognition. An adaptive strategy. Humans were persistence hunters. They didn't win through overwhelming force, but through relentless, intelligent pressure. For the next 30 minutes, Sarah danced around Krex's increasingly desperate attacks. She struck at joint connections, overloaded his energy systems by forcing him to discharge repeatedly into empty air, and used his own momentum against him. Each strike was perfectly placed, each movement economical and purposeful. By hour 1, Warlord Krex, undefeated champion of the Korvaxian Empire, lay unconscious on the arena floor. The silence that followed was deafening. Ambassador Threx leaned forward in his viewing booth, his voice barely a whisper. "How?" Sarah stood over her fallen opponent, not even breathing heavily. "You've been fighting the same way for 3,000 years. You've optimized for strength, speed, and individual power. But you've forgotten something important. She looked up. At the viewing booths where representatives of dozens of species sat in stunned silence. Intelligence isn't just about processing power or reaction time. It's about seeing patterns, adapting strategies, and turning an opponent's strengths into weaknesses. Humans might not be the strongest or the fastest, but we're the best at learning from our enemies and becoming something they can't predict. Arena's AI began announcing the new champion, but Sarah raised her hand for silence. I'm not finished yet. The crowd erupted in confusion as Sarah turned to address the viewing stands directly. I challenge any warrior from any species to face me in the next hour. Not for honor or dominance, but to demonstrate something your empire needs to understand about humanity. One by one, they came. The Throx phase warrior who could walk through solid matter. The Zentari electromagnetic manipulator who could control metal with his thoughts. The silicon-based Christarch, whose literally diamond-hard Sarah faced them all with each victory. Her methods evolved. Against the phase warrior, she used compressed air canisters from the arena's maintenance systems to track his movements. Against the electromagnetic manipulator, she fashioned weapons from non-metallic materials and fought in patterns that disrupted his concentration. Against the Christarch, she found resonance frequencies that made his crystalline structure vulnerable. By hour 2, Sarah Chen wasn't just a champion of the Corvaxian trials. She was the undisputed champion of the entire galactic sector. As she stood alone in the center of the arena, surrounded by the unconscious forms of the galaxy's greatest warriors, Ambassador Threx finally understood what he was witnessing. She's not just winning fights, he murmured to his aide. She's demonstrating human warfare doctrine on an individual level. Indeed, Sarah had done more than defeat superior opponents. She had shown the galaxy that humans possess something that no amount of physical enhancement could replicate: ability to learn, adapt, and overcome any challenge through intelligence, creativity, and sheer stubborn persistence. The human captain looked up at the silent crowd and smiled. Now, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the arena's acoustics, let's discuss humanity's application for full galactic citizenship. In the viewing booth, Ambassador Threx reached for his communication device with trembling claws. The Corvaxian High Command needed to know immediately that everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. Dead wrong. The age of human underestimation was over.